Welcome all and one to the VHS Vault. I'm Jason. That's Jason. And tonight we're talking Wes Craven's New Nightmare. We have been on a journey, Jace, have we not, with this series?
I think some people would call it a dream journey, a walkabout, a deep dive into our greatest nightmares, so to speak, and some of the not so greatest nightmares. It's time to see where this one stacks up.
100%. And, you know, this may be seventh in the franchise, but it is not really a sequel. It's a standalone film in its own way, isn't it? So, look, made in 1994, directed and written by Wes Craven. Came out and kind of didn't do that great when it initially came out, Jace. You know,
No,
made
it
for
did
8
not.
million, made 19 million. Didn't get a great response from fans, although it was critically praised at the time. I was lucky enough to see this in the cinema. When did you catch this for the first time?
I didn't see this one until it hit home video. So I
Mm,
guess it would have been the next year. I would have been in college when it happened, enjoying my awkward freshman year. I
mm,
remember I remember not even realizing that there was a new movie.
mm.
I don't know. I knew that there was a movie, but I didn't know there was a movie. So I finally watched the movie and I was like, oh, yeah, it's a new Freddy
I mean,
movie, kind of.
I got to agree with you there. I actually remember back in the time that it felt like there wasn't a lot of marketing for it. It's kind of slipped under the radar. It was just at the cinemas one weekend. Um, and yeah, and I think the reason for that, mate, is honestly, the fans were done. We were done at this point. Freddy's dead and you screwed it up. Let's be honest. So I don't know if the fans were ready to keen to go back in it. But I'll tell you what, when I went, I was not expecting what I saw. I will say that when I came out of that movie.
No,
Um,
regardless of what you think of the final product, this
mm,
was a bold gamble. It was something brand new to the franchise. And whether you loved it or whether you hated it, you have to at least admit they did do something different.
and you know, that's a great point you bring up, Jason, because I want to kind of put this out there early. I really respect Wes Craven for taking the swings that he took in this movie. There are some amazing concepts, some unbelievably great visuals. But yeah, as we go along, it didn't really pan. I don't think he really got his vision on the table. So, but yeah, at the end, like to think that he even had an idea to come back and do this. I don't know what attracted him to it. I'm not seeing any interviews why he came back. Maybe it was a big giant checkbook, or he had a moment of inspiration.
Well, this was actually his idea for
Mm.
Nightmare on Elm Street 3. This was the
Oh,
story he wanted to tell way back when.
mm.
And of course, the studio told him no. He stayed on as executive producer. I guess he got a little upset about that, but he stuck around. And then I guess he refined the idea, came up to him and said, "Hey, I know you guys killed Freddy off, but there's a story I want to tell."
Mm.
And whenever the original director comes back and says, "There's a story I want to tell," the studio's going to listen.
Yes. I wonder how the studio really felt about this script, though, because there's one. The biggest risk about this, in way, from an outside point of view, is this movie is kind of dependent on you knowing the industry a little bit. Like you knowing that that's Wes Craven in the film, or Bob Shay is actually in the film. Like it's really about the industry, and I wonder whether that also may have alienated some of the, you know, your teenage 17-year-old kid who's just going to the movies on a Friday night, which is how these movies make money. Let's be honest, it's the kids going on a Friday and a Saturday night. But you
Yeah,
know
I
what?
really do think that the movie overestimated how interesting the Hollywood system is because
Mm,
it is not. It is
mm.
nowhere near as interesting as they think it is.
And you know what? The other interesting thing, you could see the kernels of him having another crack at these concepts, these fourth wall breaking meta kind of things, because he does it with Scream and very much about the horror franchise. And in Scream 3, if you remember, they're making a film about in that as well. So, was that Scream 3 where they were making the film?
They were making a sequel to the movie that they watched in part 2.
Yes.
And by that point, you could tell that they were tired of the sequels. And yeah, it was a commentary on that.
So yeah, he obviously liked playing with that. But I mean, it is pretty crazy idea, and the plot is not complex from my perspective. Actually, it's a very simple kind of plot. This one, however, the idea of having Heather Langenkamp return after being killed off in number 3 to play herself is fantastic, And they get them all back, probably bar Johnny Depp, but he had his cameo in the last one. But
they actually, Wes Craven didn't even ask Johnny Depp if he wanted to be in this movie because he was scared to. And years later, he ran into Johnny Depp, and Johnny Depp was like, "Why didn't you ask me to be in that movie?" So, you miss 100% of the swings you don't take.
Yeah, absolutely. But he got basically everyone else, which kind of works really well. And I mean, the guy that was accused of killing the girl in the first one, he makes a cameo in the funeral scene. And
yeah, did you catch Tuesday night in the funeral scene as well?
I did,
yeah.
Absolutely. So, which was really great. So, it's such an for me as a film nerd at that age, and I know you would have been fully a film nerd at this point in your life.
Yeah, I would have been.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, it's a cool idea. It's not something you would normally see in Hollywood all the time, would you? This kind of meta thing. We're kind of used to it now because we've had more films that kind of fourth wall break a bit. But yeah, there you go. So basically, it starts off this film just like the classic films with building of it all, like the nice montage of the banging and all that. And I really love this opening scene, Jace. I really did enjoy it because it was fun.
It was fun. I wish that we would have seen more scenes like this because, quite honestly, despite the fact that everything in this movie is about making a Freddy movie, this is the only time we ever see them make a Freddy movie in the entire film. As a matter of fact, this whole first scene kind of breaks the continuity of the film a little bit because Heather doesn't know they're making a Freddy movie until maybe 15 or 20 minutes into the film. But she's standing there while they're making the Freddy. I don't get, maybe they just needed to open it up with some Freddiness and they decided to put that in there late in the game. Who knows?
It is an interesting idea of, she's there in the dream watching it happen and this robotic hand, which is kind of goofy in its own kind of way. But it kind of works for that scene where the couple of guys get attacked at the, later in the film, but in that scene, which was kind of fun and almost felt like, look, this is kind of the Freddy you're used to, this kind of thing. And so we're going to give it to you up front, but we're kind of not going to give it to you again.
Kind of not, yeah.
Yeah, at the end they do. At the end, we'll get back to that, where it kind of reverts back to territory.
Which
but
I think is the breaking leg of this movie, to be perfectly honest, is that it decides it's going to go off and do its own thing, but it circles back around and it does the same old thing again. And it even copies old scenes from the old movies. So how different did you want to make this, Wes, exactly?
Well, you know what? I'm a big believer. I love the directors who get final cut. I like directors who are able to write, direct, get their vision out on the screen. However, there are times where a film would really benefit to be edited by someone else. And this film absolutely needed judicious editing. And it starts pretty early on in this film where we spend almost 20 minutes in the house at the beginning.
Yes.
Phone call after phone call, dealing with the kid back and forward. You could have cut 5 minutes out of that. Really simple and got to the point. And this is a current thing with that. Wes is just not cutting when he should be cutting with this film.
I fully agree. You kind of get the feeling that he wanted to make this his Freddy magnum opus, that he wanted to make this a long and important movie, but the bones are just not there. It's just not.
I agree 100%. The structure is very light on. The plot's very light on because if you really think about it, the plot is she wakes up, and mind you, this is all set in the background of like early 90s Los Angeles with earthquakes. So he's using the earthquakes as a motif throughout this film to represent the coming of Freddy. Which really dates the film in my mind because it was the big earthquake 92, I believe, or something.
It was
like
in
that,
95, or 94. It was in 94, but they actually filmed their earthquake scenes before the earthquake struck. As a matter of fact, there's a scene in the movie where Nancy is driving and she's seeing some of the devastation that's left over from the earthquake. And Wes Craven was afraid that they had overdone it. And then the Northridge earthquake happened. And he was like, "No, that's pretty much what happened. So let's just keep it."
Wow, that's I would have bet my house on the fact it like was filmed as a kind of response of that happening. So that's very interesting. But it is a motif throughout the film that using the earthquakes, which works to some degree, and other times it's just annoying. Yeah. Now, I want to give a shout out because one of the newest actors in this film, who I think Wes got the casting spot on for, and I'll fight for this kid. I thought he was great, Jason.
Miko Hughes is, even at this point in his career, I wouldn't call him new. Miko Hughes is like acting royalty by this point, and I was actually gonna bring that up. Here's some of his credits so far. The Little Rascals, Pet Cemetery.
Yes,
that's what I'm saying. That one scene whenever he's running across the room, I'm sitting there like, Miko, you sure you want to be in the road? Because you haven't had much luck with that in the past. But yeah, this kid was already a seasoned vet. Kindergarten Cop. He was in that movie.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, these are all prior to this film. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. This kid was
Pet Cemetery, 89.
1989, yes.
Yeah, Kindergarten Cop was 1990, I think.
Yeah, he had been in Doogie Howser, MD. He had been in, apparently there was a Beverly Hills 90210. He was in Beverly Hills 90210. He was in The Nanny.
I saw him in sitcoms as well.
Oh, yeah. He was in Apollo 13 the year after this.
Oh, okay. Playing one of the kids.
And he is, as of 2023, he is still acting.
Oh, great! Good on him.
His last film is actually a fan film called Dylan's New Nightmare. So apparently Dylan is still having those Freddy dreams.
Well, I will say there are times, and no disrespect to any other actor in the film, there are times he was outperforming him in the scenes.
I fully agree, and no disrespect to Heather Langenkamp. She has a very subdued, kind of always surprised way of acting, which, it works for her character in this movie, because this is a movie where things happen to Heather, and Heather's not very reactionary until the end. But yeah, Miko Hughes is just, I don't want to say outshining, because I think Heather Langenkamp had an idea for where she wanted her character to go. But just somebody who's watching the movie, you're like, wow, this kid's amazing. And Heather's just kind of standing there going, Dylan, what are you doing?
That version of Heather that she's portraying, one of the biggest problems I have with her overall as a performance is the fact that she seems very unaware. Like, for someone who would appear in a couple of these films, who would know the mythology, be aware of, highly detailed in the script about warning signs, she's in denial of something she should absolutely not be in denial of.
Yeah, this would be like William Shatner being in a Galaxy Quest movie and not knowing what the Enterprise is.
Yeah.
Which I don't know. He might be. It's like, what is the Enterprise? I don't know. I just say words that are in my script.
Yeah, he's in that TJ Hooker phase at that point. So.
Oh yeah. Was this TJ Hooker time? I don't know. I think he was Rescue 911 time. This is Rescue 911.
Brought that back, memory. So the idea is they're having earthquakes and that, and we spend this 20 minutes there, and then again the biggest fourth wall break and the most one I got a massive kick out of, but not everyone would have known about it, is she goes to a meeting with Bob Shay, the guy that originally signed off on it. You know, I mean, he's the main guy of New Line Cinema. And I'm sure the people in Hollywood going, look at that, that's Bob. Bob's in the film. Everyone else is going, who is this guy? He's like one of the worst actors I've ever seen because he doesn't do great.
Sadly, that is pretty much my thought, is that, yeah, Bob Shay, you shouldn't be in this movie. We should have somebody playing Bob Shay.
There's a moment at the end of the scene, right, where he's supposed to kind of be creepy, like he stares off to the side.
Hold on.
Here we go.
Meanwhile, Nancy's searching for her mace.
Can I just say that was a better performance, though, than what Bob Shay gave?
Of course it was. Of course it was a better performance.
But I love the idea of it. I'm getting a kick of the idea of it being inside Hollywood. And then it goes into this little ridiculous part where she gets kind of asked to go and, no, sorry, before that scene, she's asked to be interviewed, which she thinks is a serious interview, correct?
Yes.
And she's on this thing and they're talking about Freddy,
Worst
which she seems really annoyed about.
Ever. Well, because the interviewer sucks.
He's a real interviewer.
He's
a real entertainment reporter.
He keeps interrupting her. He won't let her get it. So, yeah, you know what? If I was being interviewed and somebody kept interrupting me, I would be annoyed too.
Isn't that guy the real entertainment news reporter for KTLA?
I have no idea.
5, I think, because I've seen on YouTube where he famously called, who did he call? He called Samuel Jackson Lawrence Fishburne.
Oh, that guy. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's that guy.
I can see why Heather Langenkamp would be annoyed with him.
But then we go into this, like, what annoys me about her character? She seems really annoyed about having to do it, but yet she's going to do it. She seems to be almost like burdened with having her being known as Nancy, but is doing things to still kind of embrace that character, which is odd. And then we get I kind of laughed, but it is really kind of off, is Freddy busting in. Robert Englund in full makeup, running around the crowd, high-fiving everybody, all that kind of thing.
Yeah, that kind of stuff happened all the time on late night TV back then. You know, you had Jason Voorhees showing up on Arsenio Hall, and I do think that Robert Englund showed up at an event fully in Freddy makeup, which is actually where they got the inspiration for this scene, because Robert Englund, either in makeup or not makeup, I don't remember, came out and everybody was like, yes, this is Freddy Krueger. And apparently all the children in the audience were going crazy, like, oh my gosh, Freddy. And the parents in the audience were mortified. Robert Englund and Wes Craven were mortified, like, oh my gosh, these children love Freddy. What's going on? And so they put it in the movie.
Yeah, and they put it in the movie. I mean, I suppose that scene works, but it is straight away, by then in the movie, the tone's already off, right? It's all over the place already. There's no real kind of, we probably should start to talk about this iteration of Mr. Frederick Krueger, this new iteration of Frederick Krueger. What do you think, Jason? Makeup. We'll go with makeup first. What do you think of the makeup?
I don't mind the makeup. I don't mind that they make him visually different, because he is different. He's a different entity than the ones that we've seen in the movie so far. I don't mind. I just wish they would have made his personality different, because by the end of the movie, he's cracking one-liners and and wrapping his tongue around people, and it's the same guy, just different, just in a different casing.
See, for me, okay, I don't mind the makeup. I just wish in certain scenes they lit it better, because there were times that you would see it and it looked very rubbery, like how they shot it and how they lit it. It just didn't really work for me. But there are other times it's really great. Like one of the first times we get to see him under the bedsheet, really great visual. Really solid visual, I thought. And there's another part when he comes out of the coffin. He's in the coffin thing, like when he pulls the kid down. And I thought, see, that looks really scary, and I kind of really like it. But again, I don't know why change it at this point. I don't. To me, I'm never explained in the film clearly enough for my little small brain to understand why he changed it. What was the purpose of it?
Well, as I said, I just think it was to differentiate that this Freddy Krueger is different than the fictional Freddy Kruegers that we've been watching.
Mm,
And the claw hand, for example, is actually based on the first movie poster. They give him the biomechanical hand from the movie poster, and everything else is apparently Wes Craven's original vision of Freddy Krueger, because Wes Craven had a nightmare one time and saw
mm,
Freddy Krueger as he appears in this movie. Now, Wes Craven did, I think in an interview shortly before he passed away, he did regret changing Freddy Krueger's look, because he
mm.
said there was nothing wrong with the way Freddy looked, and if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So it was something that he regretted doing.
Yeah, and I also think it would have, yeah, but he probably wanted to stand alone, and he probably did. And I mean, it's hard at that time. I suppose in your mind at that time, Freddie has become such a parody of himself, such a joke. You're probably desperate to go like, we need to get him menacing again. We need him to be a scary threat again. And then, like you said, he goes back on that later in the film, which is really odd.
It's frustrating, to be honest, because you just feel like this movie made a lot of promises and broke every single one of them.
Yeah, yeah. Now, there are times when I was rewatching this yesterday that I was really getting frustrated again, as I have several of these movies, losing track of what's dream and what's reality. And I must admit, I started getting frustrated again that the guy who was able to clearly define that so well in the first film had fallen into the same traps of some of the lesser directors that directed some of these sequels. And so the second act for me, although some great visuals, seeing the kid freak out a couple of times was kind of adding to the tension. Yeah, honestly, it was a muddling mess, the second act for me. It really was. And can I just say, did we need to see 3 times the kid walking around the kitchen, sleepwalking?
No, we didn't need to see that. And we really need to stop getting kids to act like they're Freddy Krueger, because it's just funny every time they do it. Can we also talk about the massive lawsuit that Heather Langenkamp has against that hospital? The massive lawsuit. The massive lawsuit that not only she has against the hospital, but also the police that were keeping her detained. Just violation of her civil rights, violation of her rights as a mother.
Absolutely.
Oh my gosh. Heather Langenkamp's going to retire a millionaire, because she's going to own that hospital.
It's so true, eh? It is so true. Like, they just break every kind of their own laws so quickly in that. I mean, like, keeping the mother away from the kid. I mean, come on. I mean, none of this kind of makes sense.
And what was their reason for doing that? It was, you let him watch your movies.
Yes.
Therefore, we have to take this kid away from you. Oh, excuse me, Karen. No, that's not the way things work.
The kid was just turning on cable television, and in that time, those movies would have been on repeat.
Yeah.
So, and remember, it's a demon at this point, because Freddy's a demon. I don't want to get into this part, but I suppose we have to. He's a demon, right? That's the most disappointing thing about this whole film for me. So he's obviously poltergeisting things. He's making this movie appear from nothing. And he's a demon, Jason. It's awful. The end of it, in that hellscape that we have, this hellscape version of the boiler room, and the way he turns into a really cheesy puppet head blow up, I could not understand. Like, one of the strengths of Nightmare on Elm Street is the mystery of knowing very little.
Yes.
Right. It's kind of the reason Halloween works, is because the first Halloween works because he's just called the Shape. You don't know he's Michael Myers in that film. You don't know anything. It's just this maniac on the loose. And to me, I'm like, why didn't you just keep it mysterious again? Get rid of him, but don't explain nothing. Don't explain a thing.
Honestly, narratively, there was so much this movie could have done but didn't do. I think that not keeping Robert Englund, the character Robert Englund, around was a mistake. Because think about this. If you're an actor and one of your characters is coming to life and killing people, that to me seems like that's good drama. You know,
that's a good arc. Great character arc.
What is keeping this demon from taking over Robert Englund? What is Robert Englund doing to combat him? But no, it's like, oh, I painted something scary. Now I'm going to disappear now.
Well, he gets treated in this film as an actor like he's been treated in real life as an actor, as far as I'm concerned. Not given the opportunities that guy deserves. And you're right. It could have been a thing where Nancy and Robert had to team up. You've got Robert dealing with, a character that he's held on to for years and it's now come real. You've got Nancy trying to overcome. It would have been great to have a team up with that,
Had Robert Englund. I'm just going to say it. Just have Robert Englund by himself without Heather Langenkamp. I think
make it like a Raising Cain type of thing. You ever see that film, Raising Cain?
A long time ago, but I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yes, it was John Lithgow playing several characters in the same film. And that was a Brian De Palma film. That's really interesting, that one. But yeah. And, like the idea of, like I said, there are several things I really like. The under the bed sheets thing. I really love that because that's a fear as a kid in some ways. And I thought, what a brilliant idea.
I have to stop you though, because right before that, we get that funny scene with Nancy picking up the pills, and then she starts, and I'm thinking like Pac-Man, like wonka, 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 wonka.
Well, I'm thinking like, they couldn't get a deal with Reese's Pieces.
Well, the fact
you're going to overdose.
Heather Langenkamp was overacting that so much because it wasn't just, it's a sleeping pill. It was this. It was.
Yes.
Oh, that's so good.
I would have asked for another take.
I would have too. But,
we haven't quite got that yet, Heather. Can we roll that again? And the other thing is, like, the pills. The only time I'd seen that kid was given one pill as a sedative at the hospital, the kid's now got a massive jar of them or something, has he? Where he can just keep throwing these little pills around.
Heather's going to sue the hell out of that hospital. Rightfully so.
Does. Yeah, absolutely. It's and what about the transformation though? This is where it like crosses boundaries where I go, in this film, this demon can manipulate the real world because he's also physically transforming Heather into Nancy.
Yes.
And you see it earlier on with what she wears in the beginning, and then she's her clothes are starting to become old, to literally the graying of it, which they must have thought, that's a cool idea. The fans will love that. But really doesn't really add anything to the film whatsoever. Yeah,
the John Saxon turning into Nancy's father instead of John Saxon was also a very strange choice. Because
it is.
Did Freddy
but I love
do
seeing
that
him
just
in this
to?
Film.
Oh, I did too. But did Freddy do that just to get rid of him, or is John Saxon dead? And now there's a guy walking around thinking that he's Nancy's dad.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know. I still don't understand. The more that she embraces becoming Nancy, the closer he gets to coming to the real world. Because that's the thing, is that's the whole idea. I've got to get her to commit to being Nancy again, and I'm going to be able to become, as he comes out of that bed sheet.
It's
with a
very
hero
strange
pose, which was really awkward as well.
Yeah.
There you go. Oh, I could hear something in the background. I'm wondering if that's like the knives going along the...
Yes, it's the knives going across. That's somebody who calls me during my podcasts and don't respect my time.
Mate, the kid's a hell of an athlete.
Yes, and Nancy's a hell of a neglectful parent, too.
No peripheral vision. You kind of need that as a parent.
and if the hospital was going to take the kid away from her for any reason, it would be that. It should have been that.
Yeah. Now, he's not as bad as Bob Shay. He's not as bad, all right? But Wes, Stay behind the camera, buddy. Stay behind the camera.
I didn't think he was bad. I mean, you can tell he's not a professional actor, but he wasn't bad. I thought he was
But he
fine.
just didn't sell that moment. That moment is a moment to sell.
Yeah.
That is where you kind of figure it all out in that scene, right? Where the fact that Wes Craven's being used as a vessel to write the script, which is moving the plot along, which is helping Freddy come into real. And he's trying to do it really creepily. And there's a line that he says, he goes, there's only one way to say this. Are you willing to play Nancy one more time? And I'm like, oh, I'm not willing to watch that scene again. I'll tell you that.
Which makes me wonder, okay, so Freddy, the real Freddy, is held prisoner in stories, right?
Mm-hmm.
Surely there's Freddy fan fiction on the internet by this point.
Yeah.
I mean, does it have to be a movie? Could you write a book? Could you write a little scene on a napkin? Could you just tell somebody a story? Like, once upon a time, there was a dream demon named Freddy, and he died. The end.
Well, yeah. I mean, does it have to be, single line A4? Like,
Yeah. I
it
mean,
seems like
it's
what?
very odd.
Yeah, you have to have written a script, apparently.
I guess so. Only Wes Craven can contain this demon.
And these scenes, you go, look, I really, like I said earlier on, I appreciate him taking some kind of cool ideas and putting it out there. But man, you can't deny there's a bit of ego going on here.
Oh yeah, I also have to
the
say,
director is the one. He is the key to all this. Like,
I also have to say that getting back to what I was saying earlier about the stories containing Freddy. This was also the age of slash fiction. So you know that somebody had written a Freddy / Jason story. Would the Dream Demon even want to bother by this point? It's like, I'm good. It's
wait. Would there have not been comic books out at this point with those characters?
There would have been, yeah. I think so.
So what's the deal there?
Yeah,
Comics not good enough, hey? Where's?
I guess not. Strange.
Anyway, yes, this kid, even when he does do that kind of roaring thing, I kind of he's got these big brown eyes. I love him.
He's adorable. Now, there is one scene whenever he projectile vomits on Nancy, and he says, I'm coming, and it switches to the Freddy voice, I'm coming. I thought that was good. I thought that was a really effective, scary, disturbing thing. But the rest of the times, no, it just did not work out.
Yeah. And, the thing is with this, so if you think about the film, it's very simple, isn't it? Because it's like her, she goes to the interview, she gets her interview, then she goes and meets with the director, kid starts acting up, ends up in hospital, ends up having to go, back home, grab the thing, go to this hellhole, fight Freddy, it's over. That's, in very basic terms, that's what this film is.
Yeah.
It needed to be 90 minutes. I'm just going to keep saying it until hopefully I can will it into existence. Maybe we should re-edit this, Jason. Because I think there's a really
any
good
kind
film
of re-edit
in
would
here.
work.
I think there's a good film in here somewhere.
I think so too. Honestly, I think that I don't know. It just seems like some characters just appeared because the movie needed to kill people off. The father character, for example, Nancy's husband, he's just there. He's just there to die.
Yeah.
And it's once he's dead, it's like, oh yeah, we just wanted to remind you that Freddy does kill people. I don't know.
And talking about the kill, that's one of the things I think lacking from this film is there's nothing fun about the kills.
No, they all lack originality as well.
Well, he's just repeating things again, isn't he? I mean, even in that scene particularly, Jason, is that in a way just kind of reminiscent of the bathtub scene with the claws coming up?
Yep.
And the bed is too. The bed with the knives cutting the sheet. This is all kind of, again, indicative of when Freddy came through the wall from the first one.
Yep, we seen it.
To the blatant, absolute recreation of scenes like the famous girl on the ceiling scene.
Yeah. I just don't understand why they wanted this movie to be so different and then ended up copying the previous movies. It just makes no sense to me.
It just ran flat though, didn't it? Did
Yeah.
that terrify you? Remember seeing
No.
the first time you ever saw it, and I'm like, holy swear, what is this? To this one going, oh my, really?
Are they
Where's like,
really doing that again?
yeah, exactly. And then the goofiness of that final scene, Jason, you mentioned before about the tongue. Like, what is this going on here? Like, even if you had made it seem like it was terrifying, he was a terrifying character, you just strip it away with the tongue. It's all gone.
Yeah, with Nico Hughes trying to stab the tongue and he's going,
Yeah.
It's Freddy's clown shoes again.
So even when he dies later on, he's got the two-pronged tongue happening, which I thought was kind of like goofy again as well.
Well, and the fact that they resort to Freddy Krueger calling Heather a bitch again.
Yeah.
I mean, it really, we're gonna do that again. It betrays its own promise by this point.
And the thing is, like, he built kind of good mythology with this in the third one, right? I thought that was good mythology, especially in number 3 with the nun and the whole assailant. And so, but you don't address really, I mean, I just think there would have been an opportunity to somehow reuse that mythology somehow, instead of making just a really cheap set, B grade. It looked like a leftover set from Freddy's Dead. That's what it looked like, that final scene.
It looked like they used a set from Freddy's Nightmares, to be honest.
Yeah, or even Final Friday, Jason Goes to Hell. Like, it's just, it's really puzzling. It's really puzzling. Yeah. So, again, I still believe there's a great film in this. Well, not a great film, but a good film in here somewhere. I appreciate him trying to go in esoteric directions and then trying to satisfy the fans at the same time. But unfortunately, it doesn't ring true. And although critically, do you know, some critics believe this film is one of Wes Craven's best films? And I go, I don't think so.
No.
I think, for me, my favourite one of his is his next one, which is Scream.
Yes.
After this. But, however, and, you know, let me say positively now, I mentioned Scream. There are things I think he was working out about Scream in this film.
Oh,
that
most
he executes
definitely.
Way better in Scream.
I fully agree. As a matter of fact, while I was watching this, I was thinking this is like a rough draft for Scream, and he gets it right the next time he goes at it.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Now, that's basically all I've got to say about the film. Does he have any involvement in the next film at all?
Quite honestly, I have absolutely no idea. But if you give me a moment, I'll
give you a moment to cheat sheet. And so what I'm basically inferring, now that we've kind of tied up, well, this is a standalone film, but these kind of 7 Freddy films, we're moving on to a film that we've been, really is the whole reason we even started doing Friday the 13th and Nightmare on Elm Street films, was to get to Freddy versus Jason, which will be our next film, Jason. We've been talking this up a little bit because we both have very fond memories of this.
Yes. Wes Craven had no involvement in the remake.
Spoiler alert from my memory, and I haven't watched Freddy vs. Jason in a very long time. Here's an example that, you know, sometimes it's good to be taken away with the creator and give it a bit of a fresh look at it.
Sometimes, yeah.
Sometimes. But at this point, too, he was all in the Scream universe, wasn't he? Because he did...
Yeah, he didn't care.
How many did he do? He did 3 of them, or did he do 4 of them?
I think he did 4.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. There's also that brilliant scene from Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back where they're filming a make-believe Scream 4 before he actually did Scream 4, and it's just him in the background counting money while they're filming the movie, which I thought was just brilliant. I think that's hilarious.
I think before or after they land on the set of Good Will Hunting 2.
Yes.
Which is an amazing scene in that movie as well. But
unappreciated film.
Yeah, it's I feel like I've ragged on this film a bit, and I've got to be honest. I don't hate it as much as I've expressed it. I'm just more like, wow, you just could have just done something really cool with this. I was like, I'm more disappointed than upset. Like, Freddy's dead. I was like, I hate you as a film. This film I don't hate. I'm just disappointed it didn't live up to the potential it had.
I have to agree. I think that the idea was fantastic. I think the execution was not. And that's really where I stand on it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, like I said, Freddy vs. Jason is our next journey in this. As we get to, well, after Freddy versus Jason, I think it's pretty fair to say we're not done with Freddy nor Jason.
No, we have to do the truly, truly painful ones.
We do have to do the reboots, which is going to be interesting. Now, yeah, and Friday the 13th reboot, I don't think I hated the film. I just felt like I'd seen the film before.
That's me. I felt that they, spoiler alert, I feel like they took everything fun that Jason had cultivated and threw it out the window and said, let's go back to basics. Let's go back to the basics that nobody liked. I hated I hated the Nightmare on Elm Street.
That's what I was going to get to.
Hated it.
Yeah, and I had the same reaction too. So, as much as I'm right now in my mind, Freddy's Dead is the worst nightmare I've seen. But I don't think that's going to end up like that, because I do have very strong memories of the reboot and really being disgusted in it. So
yeah,
I am
I'll have to rewatch it to see.
Yeah, I'm kind of interested to go back and just see if that's still the case today. So, all right, guys, that's it. We'll be back next time on the VHS Vault, as we said, with Freddy vs. Jason. Of course, we love your suggestions, guys. It's really important to us that you throw some ideas at us for things that you would like to see us cover here on the VHS Vault. Isn't that right, Jason?
Yes, and of course, if you are a Patreon, which if you are not a Patreon, there is information on how to become a Patreon in the video description below. Patreons get to suggest movies, and we do them whether we like the movie or not. So we get to be your puppets. So
can I just say, I don't want to influence anyone's choices or anyone's suggestions, but we love a good schlocky B grade. So don't be afraid to put films out there that you may think, oh, they might hate it. We'll love it because maybe we'll hate it. So throw it at anything you can at us.
Absolutely.
All right, guys. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to follow us also on all our social medias and subscribe. Please support us so we can keep watching these movies and let you know what we thought. And we'll see you guys next time. Freddy's dead.
Nico
Robert Englund didn't have much of a career after this, really, did he?
You know what? The funny thing is, whenever Heather Langenkamp tells him, "What are we going to do? A romantic comedy?" He says, "Well, we could throw in a couple of beheadings." His next movie was Phantom of the Opera, which was a romance movie with beheadings.
That's so cool.